Gaha. I'm Banjo. If you've been watching me for a long time, you know that no fan game marathon is complete without a Banjo-Kazooie ROM hack. Usually by now I've spoken about 8 of them, so I figured I'd better fix it quickly before people start to get worried about my physical health. I'm always down to play one of these, mostly because we haven't gotten a Banjo-Kazooie game since 1907, by which I mean 2008. For a lot of people, there will always be that faint glimmer of hope that we'll get another one of these days, but I pretty much resigned to the very real possibility that it's just not gonna happen. And to some extent, maybe that's for the best. I just got done watching the Microsoft Xbox showcase and there was nothing but Garfield, so I'm already in my yearly disappointment arc. You gotta remember that the Rare of today is not the same Rare that made Banjo-Kazooie. They have a different impetus, they have different artistic directions, and as a result, they would probably not have the drive to make the Banjo game we're hoping for, even if they did decide to take a crack at it. The best we can hope for is that they license it to a dev that can knock it out of the park, but I'm not gonna hold my breath for that either. In short, the devs need to want to make the game, and if they don't want to, it's not gonna be a good game. But you know who does want to make these games? ROM hackers. One of those ROM hackers is Mark Kirko, also known as Kirko Mods. This dude has effectively become the face of Banjo-Kazooie ROM hacks after years of excellent, completely on-brand Banjo mods that perfectly capture the spirit of the originals while adding its own unique spice. Kirko has been releasing levels as part of a large collection called Kurkoin Quest, and basically, each of these hacks is a separate level that will eventually be part of that bigger hack when it comes out sometime down the road. Instead of collecting Jiggies, you collect Kurkoins. I'm not really sure what those do, but all I know is that I must find them all. Having already spoken about Splash Mountain before, today I want to look at a couple of levels that I still haven't spoken about. The way this is being rolled out, one level at a time, is actually really cool. It'll be a lot of fun to knock all of the pieces down at once, but being able to play each level as they're finished means that there's always something to hold you over and keep you from dropping dead of malnutrition. I realize this approach wouldn't necessarily work for all ROM hacks, but Banjo-Kazooie is the type of game where each level is a self-contained story of whimsy and charm, and from that perspective, it's actually a pretty effective method of delivery. And as it stands so far, this is shaping up to be an extremely promising piece of work, and I can't wait to see more of it. Today I will be looking at the 4 levels in this project that I have not spoken of as of yet, so think of this as unfinished business. First, we're gonna start with Kitty Kingdom, which is the most recent demo from a couple months ago. Although it's a little smaller than the average Banjo level, it perfectly captures the fluctuating mood and atmosphere of an official level while still maintaining the whimsy that you would expect. The interiors and underground areas all have rearranged music to suit the change in atmosphere. Probably one of my favorite things about Kirko's mods has to be all those little Easter eggs and secrets hidden all over the place. We got the feathers from Super Mario World hanging over the doorway. We got a PS1 playing Crash Bandicoot, we got Super Mario Land 2 logos on the walls as well as sprites from the first Super Mario Land, and also I'm pretty sure there's a little Game Boy somewhere on the floor. Things like this can be found in every level, like how you can see Glover's Ball in the beach level. The references range from blatant things like copies of games just lying around and more subtle things like items that only someone who's actually played the games would recognize. Did you notice the rug in the Gruntalvania level? That's the lens of truth, baby. It's always fun to see these references. Being able to recognize these things and the games they came from almost feels like its own separate game within the game. This was the philosophy behind the Mario movie. From a purely technical standpoint, the graphics are on par with Banjo-Kazooie, which is to be expected, but what's very impressive is the actual level design itself. It perfectly captures the whimsy of Banjo while also feeling like a fleshed out place. Giant colorful digging tools, baseballs, milk bottles, and cans give the perfect impression of a giant sandbox for giant Goliath children, which is probably why it's called Kitty Kingdom. And yet the inside of the buildings have huge, elaborate interiors, almost as though the level itself is the result of a creative child's imagination. It's as though the surface is what literally exists, and the inside of the buildings is the child's mind filling in the blanks. I especially love this area, which bears a curious resemblance to the temple test area as seen in Banjo-Kazooie beta footage. I'm fairly confident that this is a conscious reference and not at all a coincidence. I know I always love to compliment the music in these things, but I gotta say, the music in this level is incredible. The main theme is a remix of the underground theme from Super Mario Land, which, as it happens, is actually one of my favorite video game songs ever. I don't know what it is, but it's just incredibly catchy, one of the best things I've ever heard come out of a Game Boy speaker, and this remix is one of the best things I've ever heard come out of a Banjo-Kazooie ROM hack. Have a listen, if you dare. And then you got Snacker's Coral Bay. This is one of the earlier levels that was made available. You know, they say that if a sunken pirate ship appears in the first act and you don't go down and swim through its sunken remains by the third act, you haven't made an N64 game. This is like a far prettier version of Treasure Trove Cove. You got the echoey caves, the colorful coral reefs. It's everything you could want out of a Banjo-Kazooie level. It's a relatively compact area, but that's certainly not a bad thing. It makes navigation a whole lot more straightforward. Then there's Gruntalvania. I think this is my favorite level so far. There's literally a part where you go to a corrupted hell version of a mansion just to unlock access to the actual mansion. Interdimensional travel is not something I associate with Banjo-Kazooie, but I'd love to see it again. The mansion itself is really fun. There are all these paintings on the wall that you'll probably recognize, like the Happy Mask Salesman. There's Gex on the wall. This is like a Halloween party at Tim Stamper's house. Know what I'm saying? Banjo-Kazooie has always been great at these kinds of thematic levels, and from the standpoint of detail and set pieces, this is really bringing the heat. You got underground tombs and haunted swamps. This is where Mumbo actually lives. Actually, I changed my mind. My favorite level is the Frost Woods, a Christmas-themed Zelda level and tribute to the Lost Woods. This is my favorite level because you can actually find Link frozen in place holding up the Master Sword. I wonder how this fits in with the timeline. Maybe this is the bad timeline, but I like to think this is what Miyamoto had in mind from the beginning. This is a somewhat maze-like level, just like the real Lost Woods, and it has another excellent remix in it. Kurkoin Quest is another in a long list of fan games whose development is ongoing but shows great promise. I would very much like to see this when it's finished, and I cannot wait to revisit it again when the time comes. But tomorrow we will be revisiting another promising ROM hack that has not yet been finished. Can you guess what it is? You probably can, it was requested a couple of times. But I just gotta say, I am super excited for it. And keep in mind that even though we're well over the halfway point, there are still more days left in the marathon, so don't feel like it's too late to suggest another topic. And with that out of the way, thank you so much for watching my video.